Let me tell you that I have been obsessed with and addicted to playing the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake since getting my hands on it. So here is a short unscripted video as an excuse to talk about one of my favorite games ever, Metal Gear Solid 3, its remake, and remakes as a whole. I honestly can't believe I'm saying this, considering, as most people who are familiar with my channel know, I don't really like remakes. There are a few that I do enjoy and have enjoyed in the past, but my blanket stance on the whole has been I would rather companies take their time, money, and resources that they put into making remakes and make new games. If you want to try and innovate, iterate, and improve on things that you think you did not do well in the previous or original games, I would rather just see those ideas tackled in a sequel. Metal Gear is the one that is in a unique situation where I honestly do not want another Metal Gear game. I feel the series has reached its conclusion and we should let it rest. With remakes, it often feels like a race to the bottom for art, that anything that isn't the newest, shiniest version of something is immediately invalidated and is for some reason bad now. People will decry gatekeeping, but I think that games shouldn't be sanded down just because people cry that things are clunky. Obviously, some things are. Some things are obtuse, are bad, and could be improved on. Like, I much rather play the subsistence camera angles in the jungle segments compared to the original releases. I do think there is a line and a case-by-case basis where things could be changed or could play like other games in more of a standard way without losing the game's unique identity. Like, for example, I personally wouldn't care if you could walk around while having the sniper rifle equipped. I never really liked or cared for the fact that it forced you into first person when you had the gun equipped. Changing this aspect would not be a deal breaker for me. There are small changes like that where it still keeps the essence of the gameplay design, in my eyes, without making it completely play like every single other game and smoothing it down to a bland experience. It more so bothers me when I see any amount of pushback at the idea of playing older games with the "ooh, it's too clunky, oh, I hate the clunkiness, if only it wasn't so old and dated." Lately, I've been getting into a lot of games that offer more unique and different experiences, even if at times they don't fully stick the landing or end up being really obtuse. And even then, I find that obtuseness part of the charm. Like, my current frontrunner for Game of the Year is Beyond Citadel, a game where some of the weapons in your arsenal require a 5-button reload sequence. I'll be the first one to say that I was very, very negative leading up to the release of MGS3 Delta. I thought it was something that does not need to exist, as it was a remake to one of the best games ever made, easily in the top 5 of all time. We keep getting remakes to games that are perfectly fine to play, instead of remaking games that are kinda shit. I brought it up in my Yakuza 2 retrospective that I would love to see remakes of bad games turned into good ones. I'd rather see a DMC2 remake than a Silent Hill 2 remake. Instead of already good games being changed into something else, with the same name for brand recognition, just doing it again because we live in a creatively bankrupt world where companies refuse to let studios take big brand risks, so we just keep remaking things that were from periods when you could do that have established themselves as great. And I acknowledge that part of MGS3 Delta's creation does come from a cynical place. On a business and company level, it most definitely came into creation not with the idea of art in mind, similar to how Silent Hill only got revitalized again because they're doing this movie, which isn't even the first time they've made a new game from a different studio to coincide with a film release. But on a developmental level, there does feel like an immense amount of care was put into the creation of Delta. While I've never been one to be, ooh, the graphics, I do think that there is a lot of neat little tech behind the game's creation that feels like it is embodying all of the immersive aspects that Hideo Kojima tried to capture with the original releases. Stuff like the infamous ice cube melting in MGS2. Delta features things like the persisting wounds on Big Boss, which will heal over time. They will show up in cutscenes and you get to see how your Big Boss evolves over the course of your playthrough with how he is getting injured. It did get a little annoying for me because I got a burn mark right on my face and it was pretty distracting, but it is a cool feature nonetheless. It feels like something that Hideo Kojima absolutely would have included if he could back on the PS2. Like how every Super Mario 64 is individually personalized, everybody's Naked Snake is individually personalized to their playthrough. I think a big reason why I'm not nearly as harsh on this remake compared to others is the fact that they really did not change anything. Anything that they did change allows you to play it as originally intended, just shy of the Halo Anniversary style swap back to the old graphics. If that was included, I'd honestly say this was the definitive version of the game, and it was perfect. When Delta first dropped, I saw a lot of discussion about how they removed certain tricks, exploits, and methods of cheesing or speedrunning bosses, but that simply isn't true. I saw a lot of people online complaining that you could no longer quick swap Mosin cheese versus the Fury. That is simply not true. You still can do it. It is just much harder to do now, which I think is fine. It's still in the game. It is just a smaller, tighter window requiring better execution, which if you're just gonna fucking cheese a boss and not interact with it, then yeah, it shouldn't be easy. I streamed myself playing through most of the game on Extreme, and when I fought Volgin, people in my chat were telling me that they removed the ability to quick swap the pistol and shoot him 3 times while he is getting up. So for most of my attempts, I was struggling to try and beat him because the game is very difficult on Extreme, only for someone to then join my chat and go, "No, I just speedran the game. It is still in it. I don't know what people are talking about." And then I immediately did it. Moral of the story is that you should test these things for yourself instead of just being like me and accepting what people say at face value, thinking that they are correct, because usually they're actually wrong. The dangers of getting one guide by chat. Though to be fair, they did remove the flashbang cheese versus the fear, which personally I'm fine with. This was clearly a bugged and unintended interaction in the original. If they changed up the story, if they recasted all of the voices or had them re-recorded, I think they would not be able to recapture the magic, so thankfully they didn't try to like they did with Silent Hill 2 or with Dead Space. It is a unification of all the disparate content between the different versions of Metal Gear Solid 3, something that I wished that Ninja Gaiden 2 Black was, but unfortunately isn't, as it is still missing content that was featured in the original Xbox 360 release and Sigma. The ideal version of that game would be one that you can select all 3 balances, the original, Sigmas, and 2 Blacks if you wanted. Delta is incredibly modular, and I wish that every remake was like this. Don't like one thing, change it to be like the original. Don't like another, just turn it off and remove it. It made the intelligent move that if they were going to add something like crouch walking, they needed to rebalance the game instead of just throwing it in and changing nothing else, so it completely breaks the balance and design intentions behind the original. Like the 3DS port of Subsistence, with its completely unbalanced camo system, thanks to the inclusion of how the game uses the 3DS's camera and converting that into newly made camos. Or like with the Raito Kuzunoha remake from earlier this year, where it completely fucked up the loyalty system, which I talked about at length in my review for it. When you play Delta on the new controls, it balances your newfound precision and aim by giving the Trink gun bullet drop. You can no longer peek left and right like you can in Legacy mode. AI are way more aggressive and will follow you around if you try to hide under buildings and in tunnels. So you can no longer just hide under the building if the Ocelot unit finds you. They will keep track of you and try to hunt you down and go to the exits. And you don't have to have these features if you don't want it. Legacy mode is incredibly faithful if you want that original Snake Eater experience. So if the new balance and reworked controls and perspective aren't for you, you can play the original version of the game. The last thing that really softens me on this remake compared to others that I have talked very negatively about in the past is the fact that the Metal Gear Solid series is pretty well preserved. This isn't a Silent Hill 2 situation where the best way to play Silent Hill 2, that being on a PS2, will cost you upwards of $200. Sure, you can emulate it, sure you can play the enhanced edition, but they have their issues. They aren't perfect. While I take issue where it feels like Sega and RGG have completely replaced Yakuza 1 and 2 with Kiwami 1 and 2, they at least did do a reprint. They are doing much better than most studios, and they do deserve credit for that. But it's still not enough, as there isn't an official way to buy Yakuza 1 and 2 digitally with ease on modern hardwares and PC. You can still emulate them, and the best way to play Yakuza 1 is with the fan-made restoration patch, but it would be nice to see studios and companies actually put care into preserving the art that made them into the household names they are today. In the context of Metal Gear Solid 3 and the Metal Gear franchise as a whole, they are pretty well preserved and are very accessible to new and returning fans. Its preservation isn't perfect, and those preservation efforts do deserve criticism because they should be perfect. It still unfortunately leaps and bounds better than most preservation efforts by companies officially. A big hot button topic with this remake Remake is how the ending cutscene looks in the graveyard. Something I did do for this video so I could be 100% accurate is go back and replay through the entirety of Snake Eater since it doesn't have a theater mode, replayed through Subsistence, and replayed through the HD collection. I have played through the story of Metal Gear Solid 3 a minimum of 5 times this week, and that's not even counting all of the playthroughs that I watched of my friends go through Delta. I did all of this just so I could be 100% certain and have accurate recordings and see them for myself instead of just relying on YouTube videos which already have compression and might be improperly emulated without people mentioning that they're being emulated, or relying on shitty screenshots which again run into the same issues of being sourced from improper emulation or detail loss due to compression. I've seen a decent amount of either misguided or simply bad faith discussions surrounding this. There's a few interesting things that I discovered when analyzing all of these, but before we do that, let me explain my setup so people can know what I use to record these. I recorded the gameplay for the PlayStation 2 version of Snake Eater and Subsistence through the RetroTink 5X while sending its signal through the G-Comp switcher, meaning I was able to watch and play it on a CRT and have it fed to my capture card, which is being played through a TLC LCD TV. I had them both on so I could watch it side by side just to see how much of a difference there was, and there is. People talk about the lighting differences and how fucked up some parts of the HD collection are, which is true, like the cutscene when you're about to start fighting the end and his boss fight is broken, as shown on screen now, along with the backgrounds in some other scenes like when everyone's trying to get out of Groznygrad right before it's about to explode. In the original you can see outside these doors and see boxes near them, but in some shots of the HD collection they are just white voids, which seems to be because the PS2 had a very specific way of doing transparencies, which every other console that subsequently tries to play these games can't seem to replicate. You can look out some of these doors in this side by side on screen now and see how, yeah, it's missing some of the filters, some of the transparencies just aren't being projected properly, which as a result makes the light seem much harsher and much more blown out, resulting in the loss of detail. And for context, I am playing the Xbox 360 version, so I can't comment on the PS3 version, which could be worse for all I know, but when watching the originals on a CRT, the bloom from the extreme lighting that people have been attributing to the brokenness of the HD collection and not how it's actually supposed to look is not nearly as bad and as far off as they make it out to seem. Yes, there are some details lost in the backgrounds like the trees that I'm pointing at here, and the direct capture of the originals I'm showing you is going to be noticeably different from the CRT that I am looking at. I simply do not have a way to show you this because I do not have a camera or the know-how to record a CRT screen, and even if I did, YouTube's built-in compression of videos would still alter the image, so the thing you were looking at on a YouTube video would not be the same as looking at it with your eyes in person. This is something that you need to understand and remember at all times when taking this discussion into account. Something that I did find out is that there is an actual difference in the look of the original Snake Eater release and the subsequent Subsistence release. In Subsistence, and by proxy the HD collection which is using that as a base, some of the post-processing filters are actually slightly displaced slightly to the right from their original intended locations. In motion, unless you're looking for this, you're really not going to notice this, but in still images like the one I have on screen, you can see how it's slightly off. This causes a different cast and lighting, but again, very minor. I still prefer the original's art direction the most, and I do agree with people saying that the final cutscene on the default lighting looks like something right out of Source Filmmaker, a fan-made Gmod image. I'd really like to see a post-patch where they touch it up, because it's pretty terrible for the thing that is supposed to be the official latest version of the game. Some other cutscenes earlier in the game also really suffer from this, and I think part of that is because they are using the same animations from the PlayStation 2 game on high-fidelity, highly detailed character models, so the exaggerated movements just look off. And on the topic of art direction in the remake, I do not like how Ocelot or the boss look. I don't know how to articulate it other than this is not what I would imagine a higher res, high fidelity, realistic depiction of these characters look like based on how they look, at least in my eyes, in the original PlayStation 2 art direction. They're not great, but they're nowhere near as bad as what RGG just showed off with Kiwami 3. That's the type of stuff that makes me really hate remakes, especially when in their presentation they're referring to the remake as a vastly evolved evolved version of the original, which just comes off like they're putting the original down as if it's inferior, which only emboldens that reductive view of art and these franchises. Like, yeah, you should skip those games because they suck. They clearly suck if the studio thinks it's worth remaking and talks up how much better this version is going to be compared to the original, which was something that the developers of Delta were not doing. Alright, that's enough rambling about that bullshit. I just want to talk about how much I love Metal Gear Solid 3. It really swaps back and forth with being my favorite alongside 2 depending on the day. And on this day, Metal Gear Solid 3 is currently my favorite. It really is just a full package game. Perfectly paced, amazing gameplay, amazing level design, amazing music, amazing performances, and amazing story. Everybody loves a redemption arc, bad guys turning to good guys, but an underrated trope is corruption arcs, good guys becoming bad guys, heroes witnessing the abject horrors of the world and only being crushed under them, becoming cynical to the world and watching their ideals slowly die right before their very eyes. Granted, part of this is because of context of future games or previous games, but you get to see in real time how Naked Snake goes from being a bright-eyed idealistic soldier into a cold-hearted killer that will do whatever it takes for his vision, his misinterpretation of the boss's will, and how it will eventually ruin the world in the process. Big Boss is up there as one of my favorite written characters ever. MGS3 simply has everything you could want from a Metal Gear entry. All of the boss fights are great, even if I personally don't really like the pains all that much. It's easily my least favorite fight, but also part of that is, I will admit, skill issue. I always struggle with it, and it was the boss I was stuck on the longest on my extreme run. I really love the segmentation of Metal Gear Solid 3's level design. It's very akin to things like DMC1. I like how each area is divided by screens. They are little puzzle boxes meant to be solved. It's PlayStation 2 game level design at its finest, at its peak performance. It was why I was pretty sad when they switched to open world for Phantom Pain. Phantom Pain is a messy game that is very ambitious, clearly unfinished, that I hold a lot of adoration for. I have a very soft spot for it. I look back fondly on it more than most people. I think back to all the times that I skipped school because of how awful school was and just playing that game as soon as it came out. But the one thing I really wished Phantom Pain featured was more concentrated level design like found in 3, because its tools for its sandbox are incredible. Playing through Delta was basically what I wanted from Metal Gear Solid 5. It doesn't exactly play like Phantom Pain, but it is the closest approximation between the original design of MGS3 and the design of MGS5. Delta really nails the smaller details present in the original and has me confident that they could make a new Metal Gear game. I don't want a Metal Gear Solid continuation, but a Metal Gear insert new third word. Ideally, I'd also like a Rising too, but that's a completely different subject. Something in a different universe, different timeline, just not covering Big Boss, Solid Snake, and the story we already know and has a conclusion. I think they could do something else in the Metal Gear universe that could be interesting. Without Hideo Kojima back at the helm, there really isn't anything else I'd want from the Solid series outside of a completed version of Phantom Pain, and I have long since accepted that is never going to happen, at least in my lifetime. I don't know how much pushback I would get for saying this, but I really do think that Metal Gear Solid 3 should be considered an immersive sim. There is so much minute little interactions with this game that you can go years without even knowing they exist and only stumble upon them because of a YouTube comment. Every single screen, every single encounter, and every single boss fight has multiple things that you can do, either within the screen itself, interaction with items that you pick up previously, or simply meta interactions with your console. It took me a few days to buy the remake because, like I said earlier, was initially not sold on its existence, but after watching my friends play through it on Discord, I was won over and really wanted to try it for myself. After making fun of them for how bad they were performing, they issued me the challenge that I should play through the game on extreme. I was initially just going to play it on normal, but they played through it on hard and I was not going to let them win. So I played through it on extreme for the first time, and yeah, it was grueling, but it was incredibly rewarding to finally do it. I finally got my Peace Walker run that I was denied when I did it in the HD collection, because I got one single kill that I don't even know where it came from. I assume it was because I killed a guy for an achievement and then reloaded the save, but the game counted it. I had so much fun overcoming this challenge that I immediately booted back up and decided to do a European extreme run. It was something that I always just decided I'm never going to do do that. That's too difficult, and I'm not good enough at video games to ever accomplish it. But I don't know, I just thought that, why don't I just give it a try? And sure enough, I did, and I was able to do it pretty easily. Granted, I did use this run as a fuck it we ball, and I just killed whoever I wanted to because, hey, I just did extreme non-lethal. I'm gonna shoot whoever the fuck gets in my way and is making it too difficult for me, which is how I got like 200 kills by the end, because I killed every single guy riding at me on a motorcycle during the ending set piece. They did also make it way more convenient and easy to do without changing the difficulty of the game by virtue of giving you the ability to quickly reload with these autosaves, instead of like how it was on the PlayStation 2 where you would have to restart the console, which takes forever as you have to sit through the opening and the logos and all that shit. That doesn't make it difficult, it just makes it more time consuming in a way that isn't meaningful. The PS2 era Persona games also suffer from this with trying to get a perfect run with perfect stat growths every time you study. Moral of the story is sometimes you just gotta ignore that voice that says you can't, because you gotta give it a try. Just because everyone, or even yourself internally, think it's impossible doesn't mean it's not worth trying. MGS3 is one of the few games that has actually made me want to do challenge runs for it. I've been trying to concoct a way to do a pristine white suit that you never take off and never get dirty, no alerts, no trank gun, no kills, no damage, European Extreme Foxhound rank run. The only issue is there is a decent amount of screens where you will have to get the suit dirty at least once. My goal is to not get it dirty ever. I don't want to be going prone and getting a speck of dirt on this pristine white sparkling suit. As of right now, I don't think it's possible, but hopefully someone much better at the game than me and much more creative will be able to figure out how to get past screens like the swamps without touching the water. It is great to have all of the extended content that was in the other versions all in one place. I honestly could not believe that they were able to work out a deal with Sony in order to get Snake vs. Monkey into the game. I'll be honest that the biggest driving force for me to get this game was to play the additional content. I wanted to play MGO, but that isn't out yet, and I'm not waiting until that comes out to make a video on the game. I've made that mistake enough in the past, so I have just been sating my craving for MGO by playing with a bunch of friends on MGS5. Yeah, fun fact, the servers are still up, you can still find games. Occasionally you do get randoms joining, and they are so much better than anybody who was playing with us because, of course, they are randoms hard queuing for a game of Metal Gear Solid Online in a 10-year-old game when I don't think there's even people playing this. These are the guys trapped on islands thinking that World War II is still going in the 1990s. They're just leaving that shit open all day every day, hard queuing, letting its timer tick down, hoping that they find someone else to play with them. They probably saw us on the Steam chart and were like, holy fuck, somebody's online trying to play this shit, what the fuck? The one game mode that I was the most excited for and actively avoided all the footage because I wanted to see it for myself was Guy Savage Delta. Now, Guy Savage was a special hidden game mode that you can unlock if you saved in the prison sequence in Metal Gear Solid Subsistence. In the remake, it is a separate EXE made by Platinum Games, and holy shit is it super smooth. I always wanted to see what a fully realized Guy Savage was in the original version because I thought it was really cool. I really want to play a fully expanded, fully realized version of the Platinum game that is put into this. Maybe Konami is having them make a Castlevania. Public opinion of Platinum Games is at an all-time low, understandably and justifiably. I am still mourning the loss of Project GG, but after playing this, I really hope that Platinum Games making something much larger for Konami is the case, because they are cooking with something here. The movement feels smooth, the hit stop feels just right, the sound effects are great, the animations look so cool. I think I do prefer the original look with the industrial warehouse aesthetic and wouldn't want that to be tossed to the side. I would really like that to be reincorporated in this hypothetical, fully realized Guy Savage, but either way, it would be a tragedy if nothing came of this and it ended up just being another what if trapped in a remake. As I've made it clear over the course of this video, Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta really won me over in a way that I was not expecting. I think it's a great addition for a way to re-experience Metal Gear Solid 3. I do not think it replaces the original in any way, and anyone who says that I think is just wrong. You should still absolutely play either the Snake Eater or Subsistence version of Metal Gear Solid 3 for the PlayStation 2, and the best way to experience these games as they were originally intended is playing them on original hardware. Modding your PlayStation 2s is the best thing that you can do to try and experience games that were designed for this console as they were meant to be played. Though if you do not have access to these, the HD collections are fine options, and there's also emulation. If you've made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you for watching as always. If you really liked the video, then please pass it around, leave a like, and comment. And if you really like the channel and want to see more videos like this, maybe consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a YouTube member. It is the best way to support me directly and to guarantee more videos like this happen. All patrons and members get access to videos a day early, along with a $7 tier to view rough cuts of upcoming videos, like you can view a 20-minute segment of the Drakengard retrospective, and the first review for the Onimusha multi-game review. I am now going to shout out all of my $5 and up patrons and YouTube members who really help support the channel. Bully, Densha, Strawberry Tofu, Turbo Chicken, Scary Dinosaur, Burley, Chikun Highwin, Dev Welkin, Kevin Velasquez, Lotto, Metal Cactus, Medi Not the Bad Guy, Quartz, Saiyan Heggy, Slemph Tingle, Vaso, Friday Night Fragging, Ben Johnson, Ben Olberg, Buckets, Chichometrius, Ek Frazo, Jacob Hamilton, Leon, Nicholas Pedinato, Pittori Bursky, Shisaji, Silver Ghosts, Trevor, and Neutral Guy. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm still working on a bunch of long-form videos, but the Yakuza 3 retrospective is going to take a little bit longer because I'm going to wait for the Kiwami 3 release, so I can include it in that video. I also have a bunch of small, shorter videos that I want to try and get out just to supplement uploads since it's been so long between the big ones. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky to keep up to date for future videos, and that's pretty much it. As always, thank you everybody for watching. Please share the video around if you really like it so it can do very well because it took so much time, and hopefully whatever comes out next you'll like it, and see you next time.